Hare Krishna. Thank you for inviting me. I feel very, very fortunate to have had the opportunity and the blessing to have been able to spend a lot of time with Srila Prabhupada. I was looking for spiritual realization in my own life when I first met him. And many of you have probably heard the story. A flyer flew by which said he was speaking on the Bhagavad Gita, and so I went to hear him speak. And when I met Prabhupada, I immediately knew that he was the person who could answer all my questions. But the thing that struck me the most about Srila Prabhupada, and when I first met him, I didn't even realize there was a Hare Krishna movement. But the first thing that struck me was his kindness, his warmth, his wisdom, and his love. And I didn't at any point on any of my many times that I spent with Srila Prabhupada feel that he saw me as a woman. I don't think he ever thought, oh, there's Kausalya, a woman. Prabhupada saw us all as spirit souls. And on the topic of discussion, which is how did he empower his daughters, I have to say that I feel he empowered us in the same way he empowered all of us. I don't think there was a distinction. And in those early days, and I was, fortunate enough to go to India when we first went in 1970 with Malati and Jamuna and Himavati and Madri. That was all. There was just 5. Oh, and Saraswati, of course. She was a baby. But there was 5 women, very small number of women. And the thing that struck me the most at that time was that Prabhupada cared so much about us that wherever we were going, he would always make sure, where are the women? Where are the women? And when we first went to India, we were in Bombay. Then from there we went to Amritsar. And in Amritsar, it's the Sikhs' holiest city. And they have a large golden temple, and it was like a Swami conference. There was, I don't know how many Swamis, but there were many Swamis speaking. Prabhupada was one of them. And we stayed in an ashram situation, and it was just Jamuna and I at that time, because I think Malati stayed in Bombay, along with Himavati and Madri. So it was just the 2 of us. And so there was a large ashram complex. We got there. How are we going to live? Because there was like 2 rooms. There was one little room on this side, one little room on this side, and there must have been about 10 men, me and Jamuna and Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, well, of course, the girls will take this room, and I will take this room, and the rest of you can sleep on the grounds. So he immediately took us and made sure that we were always taken care of. And it struck me so intensely because at every presentation program that we were invited to, Prabhupada would always have us ride in the car with him, and everybody else had to find their own way. So he was very protective, and he was very caring and very loving, and he never at any point made me feel like a second-class citizen because I was female. Quite the contrary, I forgot what I was. I didn't know I was female in those days. I didn't think of myself as a female or a male. I just thought of myself as Prabhupada's servant. And I think that that's really how he empowered us, is that we lost these bodily designations when we were around him. He gave us enough vision and strength to realize we really are spirit souls, and that these bodies are merely a temporary housing of the soul. And so when we were with Prabhupada, as Vishaka so elegantly put, it was a can-do situation. There was never a situation where, oh, gee, they're women, they can't do that. It was always they can do. We were riding once on the train, and I think this was on our way back from Amritsar. And Jamuna and I were riding in 3rd class or 2nd class or whatever it was with all the other devotees, and Prabhupada had gotten a 1st-class ticket, which was appropriate. And I think Guru Das was in the compartment with him, and I can't remember who else was there, but at any rate, Prabhupada called for us. So Jamuna and I came into the cabin, and he said, I really want rice. And you may have all heard this story. But we were riding on a train, and and it was like, how are we going to get you rice? But Jamuna was my great god sister example because she's older than me, and I was only at the time like 19 years old. So I was a child, you know. And she said, oh, of course, Srila Prabhupada, we can do it. And I'm thinking, okay, how are we going to do this? So we went away, and both of us consulted. We said, how are we going to do this? We're on a train. The train's like going. We found the one dirty little kitchen on this train. And Jamuna said, we have to make rice for my spiritual master. And they, oh, no, you cannot do that. You cannot cook in the kitchen. This is just for the train use, official use only. No, you must not do that. So she said, no, I must do it. I must do it. And I'm standing there watching, and he says, no, you can't do it. And there's this, I must, and back and forth. We're standing in the Indian trains, you know, there's where the two cars are together, there's that opening, and it's shaken. And we're standing there arguing, and Jamuna walks to the door of the train and says, if you don't let me do it, I'm going to throw myself off this train. And I'm going, oh my God. And she was serious about it. I mean, she had this like real intensity, and it was wonderful. I know she'd share this story with you if she was here. Anyway, so the guy, oh, no, ma'am, stop, don't do that. All right. So he let us do it. We went in there, you know, got up to our elbows in filth because this kitchen was really dirty. And we had to scrub these giant pots. Anyway, somehow, after all of this effort, we came in with a big platter of rice. And you know Bengalis, they like rice. So we brought Prabhupada this big mound of rice. And he smiled. And he never even asked us how we managed it. Because he knew that somehow, since he had given us the task, we would figure it out. And sure enough, we did. And he ate every bite of it. So in all these situations, Prabhupada was absolutely 100% behind our ability to succeed. And so, to me, the greatest form of respect and love of our Guru is emulation, not imitation. We don't need to imitate him. We need to emulate his qualities. We need to emulate those qualities that say, Prabhupada was fearless. We should also be fearless as we go forward in our life, both spiritual life and material life. We should be fearless with our efforts and our ability to teach other people about Krishna. So that was a great lesson for me. Prabhupada empowered us in so many ways. I mean, I could go on and on, but we only have a limited amount of time. But I remember another time when Prabhupada sent Srimati and I to get deities for the temples here in the United States. This was right after the Delhi Pandal. Oh, which brings me to another story. I'm going to backtrack for a second. We were having the Delhi Pandal, and it was during the Bangladesh war, the war, you know, between Pakistan and India. And America had sided with Pakistan in this particular conflict. And so every night there were blackouts, and Prabhupada was getting very discouraged because we had to have all the lights out. And so we would sit, you know, in the dark, and even sometimes if there was a candle or two lit, we would get chastised by someone would say, no, you have to have blackout, everything. So he was frustrated with that. So I came up with this idea to put black paper on the windows of our place so that we could turn on the lights and Prabhupada could see and lecture and speak after the evening program, because this was in the winter. So I did it as a surprise. I put the black paper on the window, and then I turned on the light that night, and Prabhupada beamed. He said, oh, what have you done? I said, I've put black paper on the window so we can have the lights on. And he said, this is first-class intelligence. He said, first-class intelligence is you see a need and you do it. Second-class intelligence is I tell you what to do and you do it nicely. Third-class intelligence is, I tell you what to do, you run out, say, yes, Srila Prabhupada, and then you come back and say, what was I supposed to do? One of the other things, which reminds me of this particular situation, is Prabhupada had a tremendously heavenly sense of humor. He always made us laugh. He was very grave when he was lecturing or debating with some of the different swamis that he often did. But in personal relations, he was very loving, very warm, and very funny. And that's one of the things I really always remember about him. So he sent Srimati and I to Jaipur to pick up marble deities for all of the, for several temples, New York. I can't think of the other ones. Anyway, so we went to Jaipur. It was during the war, as I said. And Srimati, and we checked into this hotel, just the two of us. And neither one of us had ever been to Jaipur. Again, empowerment, right? And we checked into this hotel, and they said, let me see your passports. And Srimati had forgotten her passport back in Delhi. So they said, okay. So the next morning, the most important thing to us was to get up at the crack of dawn and go over to Govinda Dev Ji's for Mangalarti. So we did that because we arrived kind of late in the day, and then we went to sleep, got up early, took a rickshaw over to the temple, and went to Mangalarti. And I started singing bhajans right after the deities' doors were closed to the deities as they were getting dressed for their next darshan. And everybody started gathering around, and the priests of the temple gathered around, and they said, oh, you know, we told them all about Srila Prabhupada, and they realized we were American girls in Jaipur singing Indian bhajans, and it was very interesting to them. So we met the pujari of the temple, and he said, you know, you must come and visit me at my home. So we wrote down his name and telephone number, and then we took our rickshaw back to the hotel. Got to our room, and a few seconds after arriving in our room, there was a knock on the door. It was the police. The police had been informed because we had arrived without one passport, and they assumed that since we were Americans, we might be spies. So they were going to take us to jail. And actually, they did take us to the police station, because you can't be traveling around India without a passport, especially during this war, you know, it was like really crazy. So they took us to the police station, and they said, you're under arrest. And I said, you can't arrest us. We know the pujari of Govindaji's temple. You have to, he'll vouch for us. We're devotees. And like going on and on and on, and I happened to have his number, so they called him, and sure enough, he vouched for us, and we moved into the pujari's home with his family and children. And so in the meantime, we could not, there was an injunction, we could not leave Jaipur until that passport arrived. So we had to get a hold of the Delhi temple, get the passport over to Jaipur, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and everything was moving very, very slow. So in the 3 weeks that we were, you know, had to stay in Jaipur, I got on a program of every day, every morning, I'd sing my bhajans at Govindaji's temple. Bigger and bigger crowds would come. Eventually, it got so big that we were, clogging the whole front area. So they had us use the whole side area, and I had regular morning program, just like Srila Prabhupada. And all I could talk about was Srila Prabhupada. And as it mushroomed, I was invited house to house to house, and Srimati, meanwhile, was very busy getting all these deities, and so I was pretty much alone, because she was doing that, and I was doing this. Meantime, everybody's saying, we'd love to meet your guru, we'd love to meet your guru, so I said, if you'd love to meet my guru, then pay to bring him here. So gradually, every wealthy person in Jaipur contributed funds, and all the devotees came to Jaipur, and we had a Pandal program behind Govindaji's temple. It was the one where Tamal took sannyas. But at any rate, Prabhupada, when he got there, was very pleased that 2 women alone in a city they'd never been to were able to manifest an entire Pandal program. And he said it was a standard for ISKCON because it was the only Pandal where ISKCON did not pay 1 penny at all. The whole thing was financed by the people in the city. So, again, I don't take credit for this. I merely say that Prabhupada, again, empowered me by saying, you girls go to Jaipur and get the deities. And, of course, it was Krishna's mercy and Krishna's plan that Srimati left her passport and that all this happened. But Prabhupada never said, oh, you women can't do it. You're unable to do it. You're only women. So time and again, Prabhupada broke the rules. And one of the things I think a lot of devotees forget is that he was actually quite the rebel. In India, as Vishaka said, we did things that women didn't do. We did artiks. When we first were in India and were traveling around, I was taking care of Prabhupada's deities. Malati was cooking a lot of the times. We were all Prabhupada's servants. And this wasn't done. In public, when we went to Amritsar during the first Kumbh Mela, I was doing the puja publicly. Jamuna was leading kirtans. Malati and Himavati were speaking. We were all empowered because there were no limitations placed on us. And I think that one of the most important things for the movement today is that if there are any limitations placed on anyone, they should be removed, because until we are free to be spirit souls, until we are free to manifest ourselves to our fullest, the fullest of our destiny, then the movement cannot grow. And women are an integral part of this movement. Women are an important part of this movement. It's a balancing energy that has been neglected and ignored. And I applaud you all. I'm not very active in ISKCON. I have my own, I'm doing my own thing right now. But I applaud all of you, and I appreciate you, including me in your conference. But I applaud you in your efforts, and I pray, and I'm sure, with all of your wonderful energies combined, the movement will grow and mature beautifully with the help of all of these wonderful Vaishnavis.